Wealth can certainly provide comfort and opportunity, but it cannot purchase peace, joy, or purpose. There are countless stories of people who gain fortunes only to feel isolated, restless, or even more anxious than before. Money can buy a house, but it cannot make it a home. It can purchase medicine, but it cannot secure health. It can fund a lifestyle, but it cannot give meaning to the life being lived. Chasing wealth as the source of meaning often leaves people exhausted, always striving for the next amount because enough never truly arrives. Success has a similar effect. The pursuit of accomplishments and recognition often feels exhilarating at first. Winning the award, earning the title, or receiving the applause seems like the ultimate goal. But when the applause fades and the title no longer impresses, the heart begins to ask again, is this all there is? Success is fleeting because it depends on circumstances. Markets change, industries shift, and new talents replace old ones. If life's meaning is tied only to personal success, then identity and joy are always at risk of collapsing. Relationships, though a beautiful part of life, also cannot carry the weight of ultimate meaning. When people look to a spouse, friend, or child to define their entire existence, it places an impossible burden on human connection. Relationships can bring love, companionship, and joy, but no person can complete another person in the way only a higher purpose can. When relationships falter, end, or change, as they inevitably do, the question of meaning rises again louder than before. Power is another common pursuit. Some believe that controlling situations, people, or resources will provide lasting satisfaction. But power is fragile and temporary. History is filled with powerful leaders who eventually lost their positions, reputations, or influence. When power slips away, as it always does, what remains? If power is the only pursuit, then meaning vanishes with it. All of these pursuits, money, success, relationships, and power, are not inherently bad. They can be blessings when seen in the right light, but when they become the ultimate source of meaning, they inevitably disappoint. The human heart was not designed to rest in temporary things, because temporary things cannot satisfy eternal longings. Chasing them is like trying to fill an endless well with a handful of sand. It may look full for a moment, but it never lasts. True meaning requires something deeper, something unshakable, something beyond the temporary treasures of this world. Temporary things cannot satisfy the hunger of the soul. At first glance, it may seem like they do. When we acquire something new, achieve a milestone, or experience a moment of pleasure, there is a rush of excitement. It feels like the void inside has been filled, but soon enough the thrill fades and the emptiness returns. That's because the human soul was never designed to be fully satisfied by what doesn't last. The hunger of the heart is eternal, and only something eternal can meet it. Think about it. Every material possession eventually loses its shine. A new car smells wonderful on day one, but by year 3, it's just another vehicle in need of repairs. A brand new phone seems revolutionary when it's first released, but in a short time, a newer model makes it feel outdated. Even the things we once dreamed about owning, houses, jewelry, gadgets, become ordinary once the excitement wears off. If our meaning is tied to what we own, then our sense of fulfillment is destined to expire as quickly as the objects themselves. Pleasure follows the same pattern. A vacation may provide rest, laughter, and memories, but once it's over, life resumes with the same challenges and questions as before. Food, entertainment, or other indulgences can provide temporary escape, but they cannot provide lasting significance. The more we consume, the more we need to feel satisfied, and yet the satisfaction never endures. It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Even human applause and recognition are temporary. A standing ovation lasts a few minutes. A trophy gathers dust on a shelf. A promotion may look impressive on a resume, but eventually the title is forgotten or replaced by someone else's. If the soul feeds only on applause, it is constantly starving, waiting for the next cheer to keep it alive. The hunger for affirmation never truly ends when it's built on the shifting sands of human opinion. The hunger of the soul is not a weakness, it is a design. It's evidence that we were made for more than what this world can provide. Just as the body needs food to survive, the spirit needs eternal nourishment. Temporary things can only provide a momentary illusion of fullness, but they cannot reach into the deepest places of the human heart. That's why so many people with everything the world has to offer, wealth, success, fame, still confess to feeling empty inside. Their souls are crying out for something that doesn't expire, something that time and change cannot erode. Until a person realizes this truth, they will remain on an endless treadmill of pursuit, always running, always chasing, but never arriving. The hunger of the soul is a gift because it points us beyond the temporary, urging us to seek what is eternal. Only when we stop trying to satisfy eternal hunger with temporary meals will we finally discover peace, fulfillment, and a meaning that lasts. The meaning of life must be rooted in something eternal, not fleeting. Everything in this world has an expiration date. Possessions wear out, beauty fades, success is forgotten, and even relationships change with time. If the foundation of our lives is built on things that pass away, then our sense of purpose will collapse when those things do. That's why so many people experience a crisis when they lose a job, when their health declines, or when life doesn't go as planned. If their meaning was tied to those things, then once they are gone, life suddenly feels empty. To find true and lasting significance, the source of meaning must go beyond the boundaries of time. The eternal provides stability that the temporary never can. Imagine building a house on sand. When the winds and waves come, the foundation shifts and the structure falls. Now imagine building that same house on solid rock. No matter what storms come, the foundation holds firm. In the same way, when life's meaning is rooted in what is eternal, it is unshaken by loss, disappointment, or change. Storms will come, yes, but the anchor holds because it is tied to something greater than circumstance. Eternity offers perspective, while the temporary blinds us with urgency, always screaming, and now, the eternal whispers are forever. The eternal invites us to look beyond the immediate and ask bigger questions. Will what I'm living for today still matter 10 years from now? Will it still matter 100 years from now? What about 1,000? If the answer is no, then we may be investing our lives in shadows rather than substance. But if what we live for today carries weight beyond time, then we know we are building on a foundation that lasts. The human heart longs for permanence. That's why loss hurts so deeply. We were not created to enjoy things for only a moment and then watch them vanish. Deep inside, we ache for what endures, for a love that never fails, for a truth that never shifts, for a purpose that outlives us. This ache is not an accident, a signal pointing us toward the eternal. Every disappointment with temporary things is a reminder that our souls were designed for something more. Rooting life in the eternal doesn't mean ignoring the blessings of the temporary. It means enjoying them without depending on them for ultimate fulfillment. Wealth, success, and relationships can all be beautiful gifts, but they cannot serve as the foundation of meaning. They are temporary beams in a house that must stand on eternal rock. To live a meaningful life, one must seek the eternal source of truth, love, and purpose that never fades with time. When life is anchored in the eternal, it gains weight, depth, and resilience. It means that even when seasons change, when storms rage, or when losses come, our purpose remains intact. Because what is eternal cannot be destroyed. And when our meaning is tied to that, our lives take on significance that not even time itself can erase. Every person is created with a divine purpose, not by accident. This truth is one of the most liberating and life-changing realizations we can embrace. Too often, people live as if they are random beings, the result of chance, stumbling through life without direction. But deep within, the human heart longs to believe it was made for more, that life is not a mistake but a masterpiece, that longing exists because we were indeed designed with intention. Every detail of who we are, from our talents and passions to our struggles and even our scars, is part of a greater plan. Think of the intricate way a painting comes together. To a casual observer, a brushstroke might look out of place. But in the hands of the artist, every line, every shade, and every color is intentional. Over time, those strokes form a picture that tells a story. In the same way, our lives, though filled with moments that may seem confusing or painful, are carefully crafted by the one who designed us with purpose. What may feel random is actually part of a bigger picture that only becomes clear when we step back and see the whole canvas. Purpose is not reserved for a select few. It is woven into every life. A person doesn't need a certain title, status, or background to matter. Whether someone is a leader in front of thousands or a parent raising a child, their life carries weight because it was designed to. The beauty of purpose is that it gives value to every moment, whether seen by the world or not. A smile that encourages a stranger, a word that lifts someone's spirit, a sacrifice made quietly behind the scenes. All of these actions are threads in the tapestry of a purposeful life. Knowing we are created with divine purpose also changes how we see challenges. Too often, difficulties make us question our worth or direction, but what if struggles are not signs of failure, but part of the shaping process? Just as pressure forms diamonds and fire refines gold, hardships refine us for the purpose we were made to fulfill. Even our wounds can become sources of strength and compassion that equip us to touch lives in ways we never imagined. When people don't realize they were created with purpose, they drift. They move from one pursuit to another, hoping the next achievement, relationship, or experience will finally give them identity. But when we embrace the truth that we were intentionally made, the search ends. We no longer live for temporary validation. We live out of eternal design. That shift brings freedom because meaning is no longer something we chase. It is something we live from. You are not here by mistake. Your existence is not random. You carry a divine assignment that no one else can fulfill in the exact way you can. When you live in alignment with that truth, your life becomes more than a series of days. It becomes a story that echoes with significance, purpose, and eternal impact. True fulfillment comes when life aligns with God's plan. Many people spend years searching for satisfaction in things that never last, and the result is frustration, emptiness, or a constant need for more. But the secret to a life of lasting fulfillment is not found in chasing after our own agendas. It is discovered when we surrender to the design of the one who made us. Alignment with his plan doesn't restrict us, it frees us. It takes the confusion of wandering aimlessly and replaces it with clarity, direction, and peace. Think about how a train is designed. A train is powerful, capable of carrying great weight and moving across long distances. But that same train is only effective when it stays on the tracks. If it tries to move outside those tracks, it cannot function as intended, no matter how much power it has. In the same way, our lives were created to run on the tracks of God's purpose. When we stay aligned with his plan, our potential is unleashed. But when we try to create our own path apart from him, we derail no matter how hard we try to move forward. Alignment doesn't mean life will always be easy. In fact, challenges are part of the journey. But when life is aligned with God's plan, even struggles gain meaning. Trials are not wasted. They shape us. Delays are not denials. They prepare us. Closed doors are not failures. They redirect us to better opportunities. Fulfillment doesn't come from having a problem-free life. It comes from knowing that every season, whether joyful or painful, is connected to a larger story being written by God. Another powerful truth about alignment is that it brings inner peace. When we try to force our own plans, we often feel anxious and restless, as though something is always missing. But when we yield to God's direction, we find a calm assurance, even in uncertain times. That peace doesn't come from knowing every detail of the future. It comes from knowing who holds the future. Fulfillment is found not in control, but in trust. Alignment also turns our focus outward. Instead of living only for personal gain, we begin to live for impact. We realize that the gifts, talents, and opportunities we've been given are not just for ourselves, but for serving others and glorifying the one who created us. In doing so, we find a deeper joy than self-centered living could ever provide. Significance is no longer about how much we can achieve for ourselves, but about how much our lives can reflect eternal truth and love. When life aligns with God's plan, we don't just exist, we thrive. We wake up each day with a sense of purpose, knowing that our steps are ordered, our struggles are meaningful, and our story has eternal weight. That's true fulfillment, living not for fleeting pursuits, but in harmony with the very plan for which we were created. Life is not ultimately about self, but about the one who created us. This truth challenges the very core of how many people live today. The culture around us often preaches self-centered messages. Follow your heart, do whatever makes you happy, put yourself first. While those phrases sound empowering, they can quietly trap us in a cycle of emptiness. When life revolves only around self, our desires, our comfort, our recognition, we miss the larger purpose we were created for. A life that begins and ends with self is too small to carry the weight of true meaning. When a person makes themselves the center of their universe, everything becomes fragile. If success defines them, failure destroys them. If beauty defines them, age terrifies them. If relationships define them, rejection shatters them. Self is a shaky foundation because self is temporary and limited. But when life is centered on the Creator, it gains a solid anchor. It no longer rises and falls with circumstances because its meaning comes from something eternal and unchanging. Think about the sun and the planets. The planets do not generate their own light. They reflect the light of the sun. They do not hold themselves in orbit. They revolve around something greater than themselves. In the same way, our lives were designed to orbit around God. When we try to put ourselves at the center, everything spins out of control. But when we align with Him as the center, life falls into its proper order and meaning emerges naturally. Living beyond self also shifts our perspective. Instead of asking, what can I gain? We begin to ask, how can I give? Instead of focusing on personal comfort, we seek to serve. This doesn't mean we neglect ourselves. It means we realize that fulfillment is multiplied when we live for something bigger than our own desires. Ironically, the more we focus only on self, the emptier we feel. But when we live for the Creator and His purposes, we find a joy and fulfillment we never could have created on our own. This truth also frees us from comparison. If life is about self, then we constantly measure ourselves against others, what they have, what they've achieved, how they are perceived. That kind of living breeds envy, pride, or insecurity. But if life is about the one who created us, then the comparison game ends. Our value comes from Him, not from how we measure up against anyone else. That freedom allows us to live authentically without constantly chasing validation from the world. Ultimately, a self-centered life fades quickly, while a God-centered life leaves a legacy. The self will one day be forgotten, but what is done for the Creator and for others echoes into eternity. True meaning is found not in living for ourselves, but in giving ourselves to the one who made us. That shift from self to Him transforms an ordinary existence into a life of purpose, impact, and eternal significance. Meaning is found in living beyond oneself and serving others. At the core of human design, we were not created to live in isolation or selfish pursuit. We were made for connection, for community, for impact that reaches beyond the walls of our own lives. Whenever people focus only on themselves, life tends to feel small and unsatisfying. But the moment they begin to look outward, lifting others, giving generously, and making a difference, their lives expand with joy, depth, and meaning that selfishness could never provide. Serving others reshapes the way we see the world. It pulls us out of the endless cycle of a me, mine, and my, and reminds us that life is bigger than our own comfort. Think about how a simple act of kindness can transform someone's day. A smile, a helping hand, a listening ear. These small offerings may feel ordinary, but to the person receiving them, they can feel extraordinary. Service has a multiplying effect. It not only blesses the one being served, but it also fills the heart of the one who serves with a sense of purpose. Consider the difference between a pond and a river. A pond that only collects water becomes stagnant, lifeless, and polluted. But a river that flows outward stays fresh, vibrant, and life-giving. In the same way, a life that only takes eventually becomes stagnant, while a life that gives continues to grow and flourish. Serving others keeps the soul alive because it reflects the very heart of the one who designed us. Living beyond oneself also creates legacy. When we serve others, we plant seeds that outlast us. The child we encourage may grow up to inspire thousands. The neighbor we help in a time of need may carry that kindness forward into their own circle. The stranger we bless may never know our name, but they carry the ripple of our action into the lives they touch. A self-centered life ends at the grave, but a life of service continues to echo long after we are gone. It's important to understand that service doesn't always mean grand gestures. Many think they need fame, wealth, or influence to make an impact, but some of the greatest legacies are built through quiet, faithful acts of love. A parent raising children with patience, a teacher guiding students with care, a friend standing beside another in their darkest hour. These are the kinds of moments that give life meaning. Service doesn't need a stage, it needs a willing heart. And here's the paradox. When you live for others, you actually discover more joy for yourself. The emptiness that comes from living only for personal gain is replaced with fulfillment because you're living in alignment with your true design. Humanity was created to reflect love, to give, to uplift, and to serve. When difficulties come, people often grasp at temporary things for security, money, friends, status, or even distractions to numb the pain. But these cannot hold during the fiercest storms. Money can vanish overnight. People may walk away. Status loses its meaning when suffering strips life down to its essentials. Distractions can only postpone reality, not solve it. Without something deeper, the storms will toss a person's life in every direction, leaving them disoriented, fearful, and broken. Eternal truth, however, offers stability that circumstances cannot shake. Truth is not dependent on feelings or shifting opinions. It stands firm no matter how the winds blow. When we anchor ourselves to eternal truth, we discover a strength that does not collapse under pressure. We can endure pain without being consumed by it. We can face uncertainty without despair. We can grieve without losing hope. The storm may rage, but the soul remains steady because it is held by something greater than the storm itself. Anchoring life in eternal truth also provides clarity. In the chaos of trials, it's easy to lose sight of direction. Fear clouds judgment and pain narrows perspective. But truth cuts through confusion. It reminds us of who we are, why we are here, and where our hope lies. Eternal truth is like a lighthouse, guiding us safely through darkness and danger, keeping us from crashing against rocks we cannot see. Another gift of this anchor is resilience. Anchored people do not escape trials, but they rise from them stronger. Instead of being destroyed by hardships, they are refined by them. Their faith deepens, their compassion grows, and their testimony strengthens. Storms that could have broken them instead become proof of the power of the anchor that held them. And that resilience inspires others because nothing is more powerful than a life that remains steady when the world expects it to fall. Every life will face storms. The question is not, oh, will trouble come, but what am I anchored to when it does? If we anchor ourselves to what is temporary, we will drift into despair. But if we anchor to eternal truth, we will stand firm. The waves may roar, but they cannot uproot a life grounded in what lasts forever. That is the unshakable strength of living anchored to eternity. Chasing what perishes leads to emptiness and frustration. At first, it rarely looks that way. The pursuit of wealth, fame, pleasure, or power often feels exciting, even intoxicating. Each new achievement, possession, or thrill seems to whisper, "This is it. This will finally make you feel complete." But when the excitement fades, and it always does, what's left is the hollow echo of unmet expectations. People discover they climbed the ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. That's the tragedy of chasing what perishes. It promises fulfillment but delivers disappointment. This endless cycle can be seen all around us. Someone gets the promotion they worked years for, and within weeks they are already restless, eyeing the next position. Another person buys the dream home or car, and soon enough it becomes ordinary, no longer bringing the thrill it once did. Someone else dives into relationships, convinced that another person will finally fill the emptiness inside. But when the relationship falters, or even when it flourishes, they still feel a longing that no human love can satisfy. Chasing what perishes is like drinking from a broken cup. No matter how much you pour in, it never holds enough to quench the thirst. The frustration of this pursuit grows over time. At first, people convince themselves that the next milestone will be different. Oh, once I reach this salary, once I achieve this goal, once I find this person, then I'll be happy. But when that moment comes and the emptiness lingers, the disappointment deepens. Eventually, some grow weary of chasing altogether and fall into despair, believing that life has no meaning at all. Others keep running harder, hoping that speed and intensity will accomplish what time has proven it cannot. Either way, the result is exhaustion and disillusionment. The deeper tragedy is that chasing what perishes distracts us from what lasts. While people are busy pouring energy into pursuits that cannot satisfy, they miss opportunities to invest in eternal treasures, faith, love, service, and truth. The temporary shouts loudly demanding attention, while the eternal speaks quietly waiting to be sought. And many caught up in the noise of chasing perishable things never stop to listen to the voice that offers what their soul truly craves. There is also a deceptive danger here. Temporary pursuits often mask themselves as ultimate meaning. Success, wealth, and relationships are not wrong in themselves, but when they become the center of life, they pretend to be what only God can be. They promise to satisfy the soul, but they lack the power to do so. They may fill the hands, but they cannot fill the heart. In the end, chasing what perishes is like running on a treadmill. You exert effort, you sweat, you move, but you never actually arrive anywhere. The emptiness remains because the soul is reaching for something deeper, something eternal. Until we turn from what perishes and seek what endures, life will always feel like a pursuit without peace, a journey without arrival, a hunger without satisfaction. Living with eternity in view gives purpose to every moment. When a person begins to see life not as a random sequence of days, but as a journey with eternal significance, everything changes. The ordinary becomes meaningful, and even the struggles of life take on a deeper purpose. Eternity reminds us that our lives are not confined to the here and now. They are part of a greater story that stretches beyond time, one that gives weight to every choice, every word, and every action. When eternity is in focus, priorities shift. Suddenly, success is not defined by possessions, popularity, or temporary achievements, but by faithfulness, love, and impact that will outlast us. Time is no longer something to waste or kill. It is a treasure to steward. Every day becomes an opportunity to invest in what will endure, building character, serving others, strengthening relationships, and walking in truth. Living with eternity in view keeps us from being trapped by the trivial and helps us live for what truly matters. This perspective also reshapes how we face pain. Suffering is one of life's most difficult realities, and without hope beyond this world, it can feel unbearable. But when we understand that life extends into eternity, even pain has purpose. Trials become temporary, not permanent. Loss becomes a doorway, not an end. The tears of this life are not wasted. They prepare us for a joy that this world cannot provide. Eternity offers the comfort that no matter how heavy today feels, it is not the final chapter. Living with eternity in view also inspires courage. Fear often rules lives, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of death. But when eternity is real to us, fear loses its grip. Death is no longer the end, but the beginning of something greater. Failure is no longer final, but becomes part of the refining process. Rejection from people loses its sting when we realize our ultimate acceptance comes from God. Courage flows naturally when eternity is our anchor, because we know that nothing in this life has the power to define our destiny. Another gift of this perspective is intentional living. With eternity in view, we no longer drift through life reacting to circumstances. Instead, we live with direction, knowing that every moment is an opportunity to glorify God and to make an impact that echoes beyond our lifetime. Even the smallest acts, a word of encouragement, a prayer for someone in need, a choice to do what is right when no one is watching, become investments in eternity.